want to start with Felix Nmecha. He's the Wolfsburg attacking midfielder, central midfielder, depending on where you want to place him. He's the little brother of Lucas Nmecha, right? He's a German national team player, or should be a German national team player, was supposed to be with Hansi Flick's side, which probably Flick in his own would warrant a whole podcast. We should probably wait until this window is closed. But he is not with the national team because he posted, he's a strict religious Christian, right? So he posted a reposted a transphobic Instagram post that I don't want to get into because, it is something that, we're a tolerant podcast. We want to accept everyone. And if you are posting that kind of content, I think you need to have this sort of personal conversation that the German national team is going to have with him. And it's also interesting because Dortmund, Newcastle, and Man United have been linked with him. At Dortmund, he would be a Jude Bellingham replacement. And Dortmund's fan group, Dortmund Rainbow, has already said that they also want Dortmund to dissect his personal beliefs before they actually go there. So all that side noise aside, Felix Nmecha is a player. I did want to address what's going on the outside. We don't live in a bubble. There is things in real life that are more important than football, but that doesn't take away the fact that a lot of clubs want to have this player, which is interesting because obviously I didn't see the link as a Jude Bellingham replacement. He has played a better second half of the season. He has been a goal scorer. At 15 million euros, he's at a very good price. But still, I mean, this is a really interesting profile linked to a lot of very big clubs, Stefan.
Yeah, I think right now it's Dortmund, Newcastle, Manchester United who have been heavily linked with him, although it could add in the coming weeks and months because I think two things kind of stand out. He's a very impressive young player, but also Wolfsburg are the kind of club who are happy to sell at a certain price. You could argue whether they have a huge amount of ambition in terms of, keeping players and developing players. They're not really the Wolfsburg of old, I think, to be perfectly honest with you, especially since, was it Dieselgate, kind of crippled their kind of, shall we say, financial ambitions. But I think, and as such, rather, as you said, Nmecha could end up leaving Wolfsburg for about 15, 20 million euros, which I think would be a steal for the most part, considering the potential he does have. 22 years old, if I'm not mistaken. I think he's got 3 goals and 8 assists in the Bundesliga this season, but what's worth bearing in mind there is that he's only played about 12 or 1,300 minutes, so we're talking about a player here who hasn't quite cracked into the Wolfsburg team as a first-team starter, or at least kind of nailed that down. There's guys like Max Arnold who are obviously still in front of him to a large extent, but he certainly has potential. Now, with that in mind, I think it's probably important to kind of break down what clubs are interested in him and why they might want to sign him. I'm very surprised that Man United have been heavily linked with him. I'm not quite sure where that comes from in the sense that, with all due respect to Man United, and I don't think I'm kind of, I'd be upsetting too many Man United fans by saying that they're not really a club that go out of their way to develop players or have the patience to kind of wait around for a player to kind of get up to speed with what's going on there. We've obviously seen that with Jadon Sancho in recent seasons where if a player's been asked to kind of play a different role or change their game, then Old Trafford's maybe not the best kind of training ground for that. So I'm not quite sure how productive a move to Man United would be for Nmecha next season, and I'm also not entirely sure how much we can believe those reports, just because I can't imagine Erik Ten Hag is sitting pounding on the desk in the boardroom at Man United saying he needs this player, because I don't know what he adds to a team that already have a pretty fantastic or cracking, as I was going to say, number 10 in Bruno Fernandes. So he's not quite that level yet. Newcastle intrigued me because if you kind of look at their kind of transfer policy recently, it looks to me like they're kind of going down the kind of path of a Brighton, in the sense that they're looking to try and identify and sign players who obviously have talent, obviously have a potential, but haven't quite been kind of nudged into the limelight just yet, and they're looking to maybe pick up players before half the Premier League, even though they exist. So I think we saw that this week with, I can't remember who it is they signed, but they signed a very impressive kind of young player who is definitely got bags of potential, but certainly not a player that you would expect to kind of be playing first team football for Newcastle immediately. In fact, he's going straight back on loan to Feyenoord. So I would say Nmecha in that kind of category of a player who could certainly be a first team player for Newcastle, but I wouldn't be kind of putting all my chips on him being a starter or a playmaker. Having said that, Newcastle desperately do need some players who can create goals. I think their biggest assist creator was Kieran Trippier last season. So if you kind of look at like where the assists came in that team, they definitely do need some more creativity in midfield. So maybe Nmecha could kind of slot in and do something for them next season. And of course, there's Dortmund. And as you said, the Bellingham comparisons or links are really interesting. Last week, we talked about how Dortmund replaced Jude Bellingham. We did a whole show on his imminent move to Real Madrid and where Dortmund go from here. And, you know, we know that Alvarez has been lined up as a potential signing. I'm not sure if that's quite over the line yet. There's some, I think I saw Man United were linked with him.
West Ham is pushing too.
Yeah, West Ham is pushing now too. We're kind of have to wait and see what happens there. But, you know, if they were to sign Alvarez as this kind of holding defence midfielder, then someone like Nmecha can come in and take on the responsibilities of a number 10, then that could end up being a really impressive kind of double signing to kind of help cover what Bellingham did on the pitch last season. So 3 clubs linked, varying degrees of speculation and reality behind each one. But I think with Newcastle and Dortmund, I could certainly see something happening there, because at the end of the day, if either of them offer up 15 or 20 million euros for Nmecha, I think they can probably sign him.
Yeah, I have to add here too that Nmecha has a UK passport, or it was eligible for the UK, for England, right? Born in Hamburg, spent a significant part of his youth in Manchester, where he played for Manchester City, together with his brother, Lucas. Anyways.